Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tarnished Bronze, where we are getting into the high point, perhaps, of late stage Detroit era Justice League of America. Now, they're out of Detroit, they've moved somewhere else, but nonetheless, it's still the shorthand for the Vibe and Vixen and Gypsy era and Steel era of the Justice League. But we're having some troubles, and so we've got to get the big guns. And the first big gun is we're going to get up and coming artist Luke McDonnell, who's done some stuff on Suicide Squad and The Phantom to juice us with the art. And we're also going to bring a little known co-star called, is it Bateman? Batman? Not sure. You may have heard of him.
It's the Batman. They make
Oh,
a huge point, if you notice in my notes, every single time. The Batman. And I
okay.
don't remember it being such a thing of being the Batman, but it definitely is in this issue. These
So
issues, all four.
maybe that will cause this issue to be slightly better. And we also have an amazing villain called Despero, who would, you know, he's causing chaos. He's got good teeth, Despero, I feel. Anyway, let's get into it, Patrick. Like I said, this is from the Justice League Detroit era. This is the last Justice League Detroit era issues that we will cover because it just really goes out with a whimper. But let's investigate and see if this is going to turn the tide of terrible Justice League Detroit issues. Um, Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But we start off with an awesome spaceship stuff. Love the spaceships. Love the.
I think we can already say before, not to go toward the rankings that we always do, it's definitely better than the Amazo issues that I made us read. So I can say that. Yeah, this is the summer of 1986. Um, and a lot of these I got off the spinner rack. So I read, I don't know if, let's see, I'd say, yeah, I don't see how it's possible, but maybe all four.
Oh,
Shocking. I don't usually that wasn't really my story. But at least I'd say at least a few of them. And I don't know how. Maybe the summer it was a little bit easier. But these don't necessarily look like fill-ins for me. But this is the JLA's original villain from Justice League of America #1, Despero, from Kalanor. He has been empowered by the flames of Pytar, and they have repositioned the fin on his head.
yeah,
Uh,
we're getting into that later, Patrick. So
it
don't spoil
usually
it yet.
goes side to side like a diadem or a tiara. Now it's going front to back like a mohawk.
He is
And
he's streamlined for success, Patrick. He's just like
absolutely. It's taken an 80s turn. He's a working girl now, and he's gotten near omnipotent powers also from the flames of Pytar. So he's back to seek revenge. He rams his spaceship, which is reading a little bit Shiar, I think. I can see sort of it looks a little insectoid. He rams it into the satellite headquarters, but little does he know that the Justice League has abandoned the headquarters long ago during the Earth-Mars war, and it's just space debris now. So
I
he's very angry to see that they are no longer there.
and how is he getting out his anger? Well, his spaceship is powered by a press up device which he's attached to. So he's like
To
getting
get your
his
workout in
yeah,
as well as your interstellar travel.
he's getting his high intensity intermittent training in or hit as the youngsters all say. So just fantastic stuff. Um yeah, and now we are also in the new JLA headquarters. And who's that creeping in the background? Is that the Batman? Are we
It
in
is
danger of
the
low sales?
Batman. Yeah, since we left the new Justice League, they have a new leader. The Batman has replaced the Aquaman. But as is typical in life, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Batman, just like Arthur before him, is pushing the team too hard. He's having a lot of trouble connecting with the younger members, so we're using the same tropes with a different character. And once again, we have Vixen serving as a sort of liaison between the younger members and then the old fogies who can't really relate to them, which that does make sense, right? Because she's one that's sort of in the in between age between the older, more established
Yes.
characters and these young sort of teens.
Yep.
But you know, I guess it makes sense, but it does feel a little tired to have a different leader who's also from the original Justice League, who's having the exact same issues with them that Aquaman was having.
Um, as an aside, this sort of there's this cult, and then there's this brain control, and then it's either Gypsy's or Zatanna's friend or housemate who's embroiled in this cult. I don't really want to go into it. Just I really love this mind control apparatus. And anyway, one of the later episodes will be about unmasking this cult and freeing everyone. The setup is way worse than the delivery. I really like the setup of this story. It's a semi ongoing plot, but like the art here. That's why this is here. But it's not really germane to the main um,
We
thrust of
actually have
it.
two subplots
Okay.
in these four issues. One is this one where a cult leader has taken Zatanna captive because he wants to steal her Homo Magi genes. So this is a little bit of a theft for Marvel, except we've taken the mutant gene and now it's a magic gene. So he's trying to do that. And then the other subplot is Martian Manhunter and Gypsy are investigating a murder, very pulp style, very John Jones detective sort of work. And I was going to ask you if you cared at all about either subplot. I kind of what every time I got to those sections, I just wanted them to be over to get back to the main story myself.
So I did like the covers. So one of the problems that Justice League Detroit has is even in the Amazo episodes, which are absolutely terrible, the covers are always amazing. So the covers of the issues that deal with the main fallout from the cult story are really good, and the covers that do John Johns' little one or two issues sidebar into detecting. He's not the Dark Knight detective, but he is a detective. Actually, he's the only professional detective besides, is it Elongated Man or Plastic Man?
I think Elongated Man is also a detective. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So
the
we
only
have three detectives on the team now,
the only one is a pro. Only one actually is a an actual
working
licensed.
detectives.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that, except maybe Slam Bradley. This is getting into the esoteria of DC, so I'm going to extricate myself out of this mire as quickly as I can. Yes, I cared about the subplots. No, I did not care about the subplots when they became main plots. End of end of
Oh,
sermon.
because you've reread these more
Yeah.
recently than I have. I actually forgot that they became main plots. Well, you know, honestly, good for Jerry Conway because as I've said before, one of my criticisms is some of his comics that he's written that we've covered have read a little bit more old school, whereas some have not, and that it's kind of thrown me a bit. And of course, old school is not really big into foreshadowing and then making these subplots, even having the subplots and making the subplots then morph into a plots is even more rare. So I guess this is evolution of his writing style or the evolution of comic books in general.
So excellent lighting on this page. Now, Batman may be the Dark Knight detective, but can he detect someone when they're flirting with him? Is this an attempt to ship these two in order to shore up sales?
Oh my God, shipping. You're barely younger than me. Come on.
You know, I've got a big
We ship them. I actually just felt maybe you're right, but I didn't really pick that up. I was more reading her as just trying to tell him, which is weird. Again, I thought it was weird with the King of Atlantis, who's been doing superheroing for a long time. It's a little bit weird with Batman, who's dealt with Superman and Wonder Woman and the entire Justice League for years now. That they both have to turn to Vixen to figure out what the hell to do. How do I lead this team of
so
youngsters?
so this is what I found funny. I know that we live in a modern world and adult men and women can be friends. So I'm not doubting that. What I'm doubting is when we portray this in this comic book, obviously flirtation is not a thought crime, but I'm just not sure of where we're meant to land on this. Like, are they trying to be friends and it's kind of like a an odd couple, not in a romantic sense of the word, but they're just an odd couple duo, right? Or as we go on, it's kind of like seems a little bit more bizarre. and what I'm thinking of is that the writer didn't really know how they wanted to play this out either. Or am
Is
I
she
reading
still
too much
interested in
into
Dale
this?
Gunn? And is she still fighting Zatanna for Dale Gunn?
I don't know where Dale Gunn is and his awesome milk and cookie ex, which is not a euphemism with his exploits. But yeah, it seems like only yesterday we covered this, Patrick. Like,
It does. Not much more really happens in this issue. It's very set up.
and then we've got a pretty cool panel here.
That's
So
cool.
let's just keep that Batman Zatanna or the Batman's
That is
the
a
Batman.
gigantic starship for one man. I mean, he could carpool, right? Like, why is it so much bigger than the satellite?
I don't know. It's probably all of the weight that Despero is doing with his various maneuvers. So let's just keep the Vixen the Batman relationship on the back burner and see if it unfolds a little bit more. Another great cover here for this is 252, if I'm not mistaken. Um, great stuff. Getting back into it. Old mate's just crashed into the satellite. That's a beautiful X-ray vision here. This skull thing is just fantastic. Like
Very
just
cool.
brilliant art. I don't know whether the storyline wants to be Peter or it wants to be Paul, but it's kind of like basically a glorified substrate to get Batman in the Justice League of America again, and to have a big final showdown with a powered up
Hmm.
Despero.
Completely redesigned, really.
And just beautiful stuff. This comic, as Patrick said, is from 1986. You could put this page in the peak 1990s, 1993 era, and it would still work. Yeah, McDonnell is kind of a revelation here. I always thought he was just sort of good, but not like, oh, wow. He is making this comic a readable proposal, Patrick, to be perfectly frank. And we get
Also,
into,
I just want to mention that besides his redesign and power upgrade, we've also changed Despero's sort of overall effectiveness as a villain. If I recall correctly, he was more of a hapless villain in his earlier incarnation. So now he's not. He's a huge threat. He's very evil. He's very able and willing to murder and kill and destroy the city. And so that's a big change for him. So that was also, I think, a goal of this story arc that they definitely achieved.
and I do like they're now making Vixen diving into pools a trope, which has happened at least three times, and now it's not even with Aquaman, which makes sense. It's with the Batman. So is it out of the nice swimming pool and into this flaming lava extravaganza? I really like this page as well. It kind of works for me. All of the background captioning and stuff is all just trying to hype up how Despero is not just desperately incompetent, but desperately out for vengeance. Just once again, Patrick and I are glossing over this plot because there's not much to the plot. Despero is just like beating people up and looking boss while at it. And
Looking very
Batman,
boss.
and one of the things I love about this is the lighting. So I don't know if that's probably a responsibility of the inker, but uh, for the type of material this is printed on, which is newsprint, the dynamics of the lighting are just really great in this. I'd love to see this in black and white, to be honest. Like, and
One
look
of
at
my
this,
notes
like,
said that I could only imagine that this is what Marvel's Inferno crossover was meant to be
yeah,
and wasn't at all, right? Think about those episodes that we did covering the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. I guess it
yeah,
was Fantastic Four in the Avengers, but part of the interstitial Avengers and how kind of goofy it looked. And if it had had this interplay of light and dark, maybe it would have been more effective because this looks much more
yeah.
demonic
Just,
than that.
um, I mean, they made demons and a fiery inferno, which is in the title, just seem real boring. Whereas here,
Mhm.
it seemed like it's all happening. Issue two is just one big long beatdown, and then we have just so
That's
gothic. You can't get more goth. I mean, I should be wearing a black t-shirt looking at this, but it's just like We've got some sort of cathedral. We've got these human masks that are just looking tragic. We've got Batman on a crucifix. We've got Vixen on a crucifix. I don't know if that's who's the fella next to Barabbas and Jesus are on their fixtures there. We've got imps, and he is the destroyer of worlds. He's like become he's what is it where you become godlike? He's reached his apotheosis of
Yes.
Despero. Patrick,
It's
this
very it's a
great
little
stuff.
reminiscent of the Cool and Goth transformation of Manhattan, right? He's completely
Yeah,
transformed Gotham. They're in Gotham, right? Gotham City.
yeah, into even more goth. So it's like
Yeah.
a goth Gotham.
It's even gothier.
Yeah,
200% gothier.
yeah, Gothia City. And it's just such a good image. We're going to reuse this and reuse this and reuse this. So when you have a horse, flog it to death is the thing. But there's a lot of craft on this cover. Like, look at the perspectives. Look at just so much is going into this. It's almost a crime that it's wasted on Justice League Detroit. But there we go. Now, what are we due for, Patrick? We are due for a villain monologue. And so
Mm.
we're going to get it here with Despero. I don't know what other stuff we have to cover about this issue, but once again, we've got these people like hung up in their torture device. We're just going to beat that image to death until we get sick of it.
I can't
Um,
get over how much better the demons look. Now, than Inferno. Again, not again, not to speaking of flogging a dead horse, just because I wasn't a fan. One thing that we'll probably do at some point, I haven't even discussed this with Matt yet, but I do have some issues regarding the six-fingered hand from Defenders around the late double digits, closing in on issue 100. That were some of my favorites as a kid. I don't know the artist off the top of my head, but it's very demonic. There are a lot of depictions of demons and hell and these sorts of things that are just so excellent. And this is something that when you do it right to the eye, it's very appealing for, like a nerd guy like me. And I wasn't feeling it with those other ones, but this one I feel like McDonnell really does it well.
so instead of Dante's Inferno, we've got Despero's Inferno. Now, I would have liked the title of this to be called Inferno, but anyway. So Patrick, was this giving you that impression when you read this as a 10-year-old or however old you were?
What impression was that?
Like the art, was that what brought you back to
Oh,
this?
I probably appreciate the art more now than I did then.
Oh, okay.
Because as you know, I really like that clean line, especially when I was younger and sort of maybe didn't appreciate the light and dark as much as I do now. This is actually pretty clean for this sort of let's say messy scene,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like with the rips and the tears and the. So I probably did like it, but because I love that look of, say, JLA Annual #1 with
yeah.
Dr. Destiny and how clean that looked by Hoberg, probably I appreciated this less when I was young, tween than now. I had written in my notes multiple times, "Oh, the art is so good!" Like I really appreciated it.
Yeah, it's shocking for me. I had to double check the date that this came out. Like I said, I thought this was a lot later than what it is. So it's 86. We've got the new Justice League. It's kind of these extended fight scenes don't grate. Often in a comic, if the fight scene isn't good, it's going to grate, it's going to grind, it's going to be just grist for the mill, trying to be as alliterative as I can. And it just bogs you down in tedium. This
I'm
fight
so
scene
glad
is
that you It's weird that I mean, not to brag, but we really feed into each other a lot very well. That's exactly the next thing I was going to bring up was, as is typical with the JLA Detroit. We've covered this so many times every time we cover them. It's the same boring uses of their powers. It's just not interesting. It seems to be a weakness, with all due respect, of Gary Conway's writing this team at that time. I don't want to say of his writing in general, but of his writing of Detroit, we see, let me guess, Elongated Man is going to be a slingshot, right? I mean, just like Amaza was a slingshot when he stole Elongated Man's powers, we're going to have some rocks that are thrown. Or Zatanna, who is not here actually, but if she had been here, she would have used her magic solely to affect the Earth, even though she's
Yeah.
not an Earth elemental. Like it's just the same boring thing over and over. Their fight scenes just are they're just not good.
Yeah. Whereas this one is a fight scene over 4 issues, and there's enough juice in it to kind of make it last, at least when it's not the ground shattering variety. Um, Again, you're just kind of seeing how powerful. Like Batman is no slouch. Um, Vixen has already shown in her Spotlight solo issue that she's no slouch. The JLA has tried to build themselves up as a team, both under the sort of tutelage of the various leaders, and they're just getting their ass handed to them here. Um, I thought this art was quite. This is where I'm kind of getting the weird vibe between the two of them. If it just seems a strange conversations. Um, and they're trying to be both things. They're trying to just keep it professional, but they're also, I think, trying to make is are they trying to sort of bring promiscuity into Vixen's character? I don't know. I don't want to put words into Conway's mouth. I'm just going to use the text that's there. I didn't get this out of nowhere. I got it from reading the verbiage there. Now, this is one thing that I really wanted to discuss with you, Patrick. When did we go from the awesome streamlined Finn, the proto Savage Dragon, if you will, from the Tiara style, unaerodynamic, low energy Jeb version of Despero's Finn?
Yeah, it's issue 251, which was the previous.
Sorry, this is the first appearance of the awesome Finn, because this
As
is a
far as
lane.
I know, I
Yeah,
feel 99% certain. This was very prevalent in my notes too. My favorite part of the four-story arc is his origin story.
yeah,
This is updated and expanded from what we know about his origin previously, and it really gives a good fleshing out of what Kalanor was like and how their entire society was made up of people all having these murderous, power grasping impulses and tendencies and kind of survival of the fittest, where they'll murder their own family in order to
and
get power.
and put heads on spikes, and they probably didn't even have a fever, which is a callback to an old episode.
Yeah, so it really explains and gives more heft to who Despero is and what his motivations are and just how dangerous he is. But yeah, it is interesting that in these older issues, or these callbacks, we're seeing his old Finn. It was the fact that he was transformed by the flames of Patar, which gave him all his power. That's what kind of it also shifted his Finn.
Yeah. So be in military strategy, you've got to beware of mission creep. In Despero's homeland, you've got to beware of fin creep. So they're two things that we should all be very, very concerned about. And now we're getting more into. I doubled down there.
One
Now
thing
we
I
get.
will
Sorry.
quickly before, oh, I was just going to say one thing I will note is that one of the only things that I've ever liked about Elongated Man was his old costume, and now they've switched him to this truly hideous, like light colored costume. I just think it's terrible. I have no idea why they made that choice. It was really one of the few redeeming qualities of that character, who is not one of my favorites. But you were saying about Vixen and
You
Batman.
just, we're flogging the dead horse. They've instead of being trussed up now vertically, they're now trussed up horizontally. But it's kind of like one of those things where you always see on old television shows and in some cartoons, they would have a male and female character. If they were not romantically involved, they would sleep head to toe. And then one of the people points out that the middle is still touching, which I always like. So here the artist has avoided any of that by having them sort of. I don't know how you would do all of the design of your torture chamber in order for this to happen, Patrick. But obviously, some interior designer has thought about how exactly you want to chain people up, which is a job probably not for everybody.
Well, you think too that they were hanging side by side on the wall with a lot of space in between them, and when they got sucked into the wall, they really got turned around and repositioned. a lot by his powers subconsciously. So he Despero's doing a lot of work in the background that we need to appreciate.
Yeah. Just great scenes, great art, just good comic stuff. Like, and we haven't seen that in these Justice League Detroit issues enough. It's just enough of this comic to make me want to bother to read the next thing because you set up a lot of stuff. We've covered Justice League Detroit a lot here. The characters are all interesting, but they're not doing anything I care about. Whereas here, I actually care about Batman and Vixen getting out of Despero's clutches. And now we're into the finale, Patrick. Is there anything that we need to really add aside from this is just one long fight scene comic, which is not a bad thing. It's just a little while since I've seen a
I
fight
think
scene
the
comic.
only character or plot sort of point is that again, as you said, and we both said, besides the art just being excellent, is that vibe is the resident naysayer. He doesn't think that they have any chance, but the rest of the team sort of sallies forth, and then it ends up being Vibe who kind of saves the day. So that's sort of we've a little bit of a trope there that we're using, and the way he does it is by going with Martian Manhunter to destroy the fire of Patar.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just sort of annoyed that this double page spread didn't come out. So let me just try and get everyone so we can see. Yeah, so can you
Mm.
see? Yeah, it looks so cool. So some of the visual effects on this look pretty top notch, to be honest. The art that like that backlighting of Batman just makes everything just look amazing. It's kind of wasted on Justice League Detroit, to be honest, but nonetheless, and I like this cosmical. So I don't know if everyone can see, but there's sort of inking pattern inside. It's like the
Hmm.
reverse Kirby crackle. It's inside the energy thing. I thought that was quite like it made it feel like it was ropes of power sort of
It's unique to
enveloping.
you don't I mean, we may have seen that at some point, but you don't really see that.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good visual shorthand. So once again, just if you want a fight scene comic, Justice League of America 251 to 254 is not the worst thing that you could pull out to say, here's how we revive a really flagging thing. Now, I love callbacks. I love callbacks in Watchmen is a classic. The first panel of the first issue mirrors the last panel of the last issue, and the first panel of the issue mirrors the last panel of all of the issues and the colors and so on and so forth. We've had one where we've had Despero triumphant. Now we're going to maybe have one where the same sort of figure, two panels, a big massive figure, and in isolation, the bottom panel is going to be the shoes now on the other foot. So that's kind of like a fun little callback, I think, to issue two, Patrick, where we had the same thing, but Despero was triumphant. Um,
Hmm.
just the more these imps are going along, the more I'm annoyed by Inferno. So it just
True, that's a
it, these pages are just great pages. The reason that Patrick and I aren't really commenting on the plot is it's all there on the page. You don't need to do anything. It's just they're basically in a big fiery pit, and a fellow with a Finn mohawk is fighting a fellow with a cape. Anything to add,
no,
Patrick?
and that's the thing. I think, like you said, you're praising the fight scenes. I kind of tore them down, but mine is basically my criticism is really about when the rest of the Justice League is involved. I always like to see interesting and novel uses of powers and that sort of thing, and you're not really seeing that a lot. It's kind of like a more fist fight kind of
Yeah, yeah,
stuff, and Despero using his powers to great advantage, and that part looks really cool. I love that part.
yeah. That
And
yeah,
there's something to be said for that. One of the problems that I think people have often criticized the point and shoot powers. That I actually really enjoy that, and they say that they like to have more of that sort of physical interaction, with the karate chops and the kicks and whatnot. So and you do get that, and especially from Batman. When it comes to the rest of the team, it gets a little tired.
yeah.
It's a lot
I
of
think
slingshots and rock throwing.
Yeah, I think Batman and Vixen is sort of like a Colossus and Wolverine. They're two
Mm,
people who have a physicality about them. And this dude who has all of these sort of pseudo mystical powers as well as a big physical threat. That's kind of a nice juxtaposition. So we have to
hmm.
get all of the other Justice League members out of the road so we can do this
Yep.
do this combo. Um, this page is upside down, is it?
Yes.
It makes it even better. Like, but we'll avoid this one. One thing I like
Chaos.
is like, look at this awesome rainbow power. So in
Now that is right up my alley. Love that.
yeah, that so this is where I'm feeling like the physical members are going up against this mystical power guy, and once we get Gypsy and her sort of pseudo mystical power, then all of a sudden we can neutralize the physical mystical, physico mystical is a great word, threat. So this is the one aspect where I feel the League part of the Justice League gets kind of weaved into back into the plot. Um, but is it too little, too late for Justice League Detroit? Like,
Mm.
just so the art is magnificent. I think Luke McDonnell does stick on art. We've got the denomoire here. Tattered Batman cape never gets old. Cobblestones never get old. But we're just going to look at the bottom thing. Gypsy had her moment in the sun. Vixen and Batman basically propulsed this comic along with Despero. Martian Manhunter, Steel, Elastic Man, and Vibe are essentially non-entities in this
Ah,
issue.
Vibe destroyed the flames.
Oh, okay. So
Just
that's
saying.
why. Okay.
Give hey, put some respect on his name, or his brother will come and get you. The
Oh,
Lobos
I don't.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
I don't want to be embroiled in some sort of gang war. So Vibe is now a pseudo entity and not just the butt of everyone's jokes. So I don't like his costume as much as the old Vibe costume.
Elongated Man is the human slingshot.
Yeah,
And Martian Manhunter really, for such a powerful character, it's
he
weird how
is.
he does so
He's
little.
he's weak against fire, though, right?
Oh, fair. That's fair. And he's more of a counselor, like, right? I mean, he helped Vibe do what Vibe needed to do to save the day.
Yeah.
So, well, I
So
mean, Gypsy slash Vibe.
yeah. So Patrick, where are we landing?
Wow. Hmm. Thin plot, good art. Um,
Well, we
I
do.
personally like JLA Annual 1 better, so I'm gonna just throw
I
that
was
out
going to
there.
just suggest that we do like for likes. So our opening bid is below Justice League one,
Yeah.
annual one, sorry, but it's probably one of the better Justice League Detroit issues. So I'm just
Oh,
sort of,
probably the best one we've done, except for the annual two.
yeah. So annual two is definitely the best, but is it better than that Vixen solo story, you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah,
like
it's,
the art better in that one, but I mean, the art for that one couldn't have been used for this one, so it's hard to compare the two.
yeah.
My question for you would be, how do you feel about this vis-a-vis Life Death? X-Men
Uh,
186.
well, no, I can't, you know, Luke McDonnell is a hell of an artist, but Barry Windsor Smith is an artist for men, not an artist for boys. So even in the art state, so all I'm saying, Patrick, in the art stakes is what we're going to judge this by because the
Oh, okay,
stories.
wait. All right, wait. How about because you brought up Vixen Horned Ox is how we have that in our notes. I personally like Fantastic Four 218 with Spider-Man and the Frightful Four. I like it better than this.
Okay, so let's prop this below the trapster, but above that. Because
That's
the art is what carries this. You can probably get this for. I think one of the issues is expensive for reasons that escape me, but by expensive I mean it's like $4 instead of
I wonder if it's the
50 cents.
first one because it's the reintroduction of Despero. Because I can't think of any other reason.
Yeah, probably some sort of anal retentive is getting all of the Despero issues that they can get their hands on. So
The
so
tech
Patrick,
bros need to tell us in the comments.
yeah, so yeah, or so the only thing worse than one of the comic channels that complains about comics is the comic channels that complain about comics and then show off like all of their gains that they've made in the price of their comic collection.
I've
So
never seen.
anyway, so good. So let's put that just ahead of Horny Vixen and just below the Trapster episode of Spider-Man. And so there you have it. That was Despero. That was one of the least worst episodes of the Justice League Detroit that we've seen. Um, if you've been reading along Justice League Detroit because you're so enthusiastic about the tarnished bronze content, then I sincerely apologize because the covers, the first issue, and elements of the first sort of 4 to 5 are absolutely great. And the delivery of all of this great setup is just the wheels fall off pretty quick. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, there are a couple of highlights along the way. And definitely the art of 251 to 254 is really, really great. Patrick, anything else to mention, or are we going to rule the line under the second sort of complete saga of Tarnished Bronze? The first being Interstitial Avengers. Now we're ruling a line through Justice League Detroit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
where do we
think
go from here?
well, there are probably some one-offs from earlier Justice League when we had the full team. So I could think of a few that might be worth covering, if only for sort of nostalgic reasons. One in particular that comes to mind is a Justice League JSA crossover. That was one of my first
Mhm.
Justice League comic books. I'm kind of waiting until we get through some of our reading lists to kind of go through some of my old ones and see which ones. It was another one where, in this instance, I had the first issue of a two-story arc and not the second. So I never knew who died or who was behind it until maybe 20 years later. And I was like, oh, and honestly, the payoff, the setup was better than the payoff in that
Okay.
instance. So you never
So
really know what you're going to get.
So, in order to have streamlined YouTube content, let's make one of the episodes be about the Justice League of America and the Justice Society of America and see how well we can explain this in 20 minutes or less, Patrick. So, everyone, look forward to that in the distant, distant future of Tarnished Bronze. In the
Who
more
knows?
recent future, we've got some X-Men, some Avengers, and maybe some Fantastic Four and more Legion content coming your way. Like, follow, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.